Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's vlog is a bit of an update on how I've been getting on with my August plans, including a completed make that I completely forgot to tell you I was intending to make. It was all cut out, ready to go, and then I forgot to tell you about it. So I've got two new makes to show you, and I'll give you a bit of an update on how I've been getting on the other plans that I mentioned last time, and I'll link the vlog below if you don't know what I'm talking about. So the first thing that I will show you is my completed pair of Frankie Pants. So you might remember last time I said I was going to make a second pair of these pants. So I'll pop a pic in of the first pair that I talked about in a previous video. And this time I've done them in a much drapier fabric. It's a cotton sateen, and it's by Kaffe Fassett. And I am really pleased with these. They feel much kind of looser on. I'll pop some pics in at some point of me twirling around in them, but also I'll put a photo in. I wore them out to lunch on Friday, and I took a photo just sitting down, and you can see how they drape when I'm sitting down, and I just think they look really nice. And they will be an entry for So Bold, because they are still pretty bright, and also because for me, wide leg trousers is still a new shape. So I think that they qualify, but I am really happy with these. And I have put in a little label, which I think was a gift from Kate Ripper Seams, and it says hello summer. Yeah, it says hello summer on both sides, and it's just got a little pineapple on. So I didn't make any changes in terms of the size I made. The only things that I did differently were I added 2 centimeters to the back elastic. So it's got gathers at the front and a flat waistband. But then at the back, you'll see it's an elasticated waistband. And what I did, oops, sorry, there you go, that's better. What I did was waistband length is still the same, but instead of putting 42 centimeters of elastic in, I used 44, not because the other lot are too tight, but as I said last time, when it's hot, and we have had yet another heat wave, they were a bit hard to get on and off if you're feeling a bit hot and sweaty. So I put an extra couple of centimeters on, and they are much better. And the only other thing that I did differently was I was really sensible, and I pinned the ends of the elastic properly while I was sewing it up, so they didn't ping off, disappear inside, and I didn't have to do any unpicking like I did last time. Other than that, they're exactly the same, just a more drapey fabric, and I am really chuffed with the way they turned out. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you like these better than my initial pair made from the Portuguese cotton. It was cotton in the end. I mean, I found it on the website. I told you it was polycotton, and it wasn't. So I think I just had my iron too high when I burnt it. So let's move on to my second make, and I'm going to spin you round a little bit so that you can see it on Olivia. So this is it. It is the Rivi top. I'm just checking what the full name of it is. It's called the Rivi Blouse and Dress, and I'll show you more in detail in a minute. But it's this pattern. So the Rivi Blouse and Dress from Chalk and Notch, and you get quite a lot of bang for your buck because you can make it as I've made it, which is the blouse with short sleeves, or you can make it as a long sleeve shirt complete with cuffs and plackets, or as a short sleeve dress, or a short sleeve dress. I think obviously you could make it as a long sleeve dress if you wanted to. That would also work. So as you can see from the line drawings, and as hopefully you'll be able to see when I show you Olivia again. Let me just move the camera. I have to be really careful moving this because otherwise I end up disturbing the camera in my tripod and I get dark lines down the edge, which I'm trying to avoid. But here you go. You can see that I have done the yokes in the Tokyo Nights Lady McElroy cotton lawn, which I had left over from making the Avid Seamstress blouse. And then, and this is on the front, obviously, I'll show you the back in a second. And then I have done the bottom part and the top collar in the fabric Godmother. I think it's called Linei, the fabric, and I think they brought it out at the same time as they brought out their peony dress pattern. And in fact, I made the dress in that pattern. And I've done one sleeve in each of the fabrics. And then if I spin it round to the back, you can see that I have made the back yokes the opposite way round. So I've got the flowered fabric at the top, and then I've got the Lady McElroy fabric on the bottom part and the other sleeve. And I've finished it off with buttons from Becky's Sewing Studio, which are kind of, I'll take it off, Olivia, in a minute so I can show you closer, but they are kind of glittery buttons from Becky's Sewing Studio, which I think show up really well. So let me pause you and I'm going to take this off, Olivia, and then I can talk about it in more detail. Right, so here we go. I've moved Olivia out of the way. So I've got a little bit more room. So I can show you now close up the lovely buttons. Hopefully you can see that without the light glaring too much. There we go. These lovely sparkly buttons which pick out some of the colours in the shirt. I mean, you'd be pushed to find a colour that isn't in the shirt, I think. So what do I think of the pattern? So I really love the yokes. I love the fact that you can play with the different fabrics. They make quite a play, and in the instructions, of the fact that you could have a striped fabric, and that's what they've got. If I show you the pattern picture again, on the front, they've got stripes, so you could have the stripes going one way on the yokes and then the stripes going the other way on the body and the sleeves. So, and you've got endless possibilities, I think, for color blocking, different types of fabric. And I've gone with these two fabrics, which I think are fairly similar in terms of colour, but incredibly different in terms of design. And what I really like about it is you almost have to look twice to see that in fact it's not all the same fabric. So I'm really pleased with how it came out from that perspective. I think the instructions are quite full. There are a good 30 odd pages, I think, of instructions. And they've also got, for really experienced sewists, I didn't use them because it was the first time I'd made the pattern, but they've got like a synopsis of this is what you would need to do if you know what you're doing and you don't want walking through it. They have also got walking through it instructions for things like making a full bust adjustment, how to lengthen the garment. So really, really thorough. Sometimes I had to read things a couple of times to get my head around them, and sometimes I didn't follow the order that they suggested for doing things. So, for example, they suggested inserting the sleeves in the round, but there isn't a lot of ease in them, so I didn't bother. I just literally put them in on the flat, and then when I sewed it up, I sewed it down the side of, down the bottom of the sleeve and down the sides at the same time. So there were times I ignored the instructions. There were times I didn't ignore the instructions but kind of wished I had, particularly around the collar. So I made a size 6. Let me just grab the notes. I linked the pattern below, so I won't go through all the different sizes. Just suffice to say, it is a really big size range, and it is also meant to be oversized. Hold that thought. So it is nice and inclusive. So I made a size 6, which was meant to be for a full bust of 35 inches. And it said there were 8 inches of ease. And sure enough, in the finished garment measurements for a size 6, it says 43 inches on the bust. So I'm more likely a 36-inch full bust or 37-inch. But even if you said I was 37-inch, that should still give me 6 inches of ease around the bust. But when I made it up, I realised before, fortunately, that I sewed the side seams, that I was no way going to be able to get in it with a 5/8 inch seam allowance all the way round. So when I did the sewing under the sleeves and down the sides, I reduced the seam allowance to 3/8 of an inch. So obviously that gave me an extra inch all the way around, and it's fine. You'll see when I put pictures in, it's not massively boxy on me, but it's okay. I can wear it. And I think if I made it again, which I probably will, although I love the crop look, I think it's probably a little bit too cropped for me. So I will probably add a couple of inches onto the length. So I think maybe I should go up to a size 8. I mean, technically I'd be a size 10, but that might be too boxy. So we will see. So that was my first issue, but in the end, thank goodness, it wasn't really an issue because I realised in time. So one of the things that I quite liked about the instructions was it suggested that a nice way to finish off the seams is to do French seams. So I started out doing French seams and then top stitching all the way around. So you can see hopefully here, if I show you where I've put the seam in, you can see I've done the French seam, so it's all nice and neatly enclosed, and then it's top stitched. And I was really pleased with the way that was going. However, when I got to the point where I had to cut down the seam allowance on the side seams, I thought it's just going to be a nightmare if I'm trying to do French seams on a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I decided I wasn't going to go there, and I just did ordinary seams and overlocked it, which I could have done anyway. It does say you can use an overlocker, and I think that's come out pretty nicely, so I'm pleased with it. So I think I rescued Triumph from the jaws of the disaster on that front, and I'm happy with that. One of the things, and I know from a conversation with someone else who is almost certainly going to say it on their vlog, so I won't spoil the surprise, is that, not on the Rivi, different make, the instructions go, when you look at them, so here's an example. The instructions go left to right across the top and then left to right along the bottom. And there is a huge temptation to go left column first and then right column, and you don't. So you just have to kind of read it a couple of times to make sure you're going in the right direction. And the tutorial does assume that you are doing French seams, which is why it talks about sew the right back yoke to the back first pass and then the second pass. Obviously, if you're not doing French seams, you should be sewing it the way round that it talks about in the second pass. So there are more steps than there maybe would need to be, and you have to kind of do a bit of translation if you're not doing French seams. So it's fine if you know that, but you just need to be aware that you need to do that if you're not doing French seams. So the other thing that caught me out was that I really struggled with the collar and collar stand. So it did sit in a naughty corner for a few days, and I did the Frankie instead. So first time I cut out the collar stand, and I've taken a screenshot of the pattern piece on the A0, and you will see that it's not cut on the fold, it's created as one big strip, and I don't really understand why, but I managed to cut out, I think, the wrong size on one side of the collar stand because all the lines are really close together, and I think I got confused. So I ended up with something that was asymmetric and didn't realise until I actually had cut out the fabric. Fortunately, had plenty, so it didn't matter. But what I did was worked out which one I thought was right, chopped my pattern piece in half, and then cut it on the fold. And so that was a lot easier. But before I started filming, I had a look back to see whether the A0, this is when I took the screenshot actually, if the A0 pattern pieces come with different colours of lines, to see whether you could actually get it printed like that, and it doesn't. So just to show you, it just appears like that. And so you can see you've got the usual differentiation by the types of line. But when you get to the bits where the measurements are fairly close together, it is so difficult to work out which one you should be cutting. Maybe it doesn't matter quite so much on pieces like this, but when you've got the ends of the collar stand, it was really difficult. So I think, given that I'll probably have to reprint it anyway if I want to make a bigger size, I will probably next time, because I've now been through the process of working out what my right size is, and even though I love both of these fabrics, it was really a wearable toile because they were both remnants, so good scrap buster. I will probably just print the layers I need, and so round the collar I'll probably only need one layer, and that should solve that problem. But it was it was difficult, and there was some kind of unhappy moments, shall we say, in my sewing room at that point. The other thing that I think about that collar stand is it is incredibly narrow. I don't know how well you can see that. Hopefully you can see. So it is really narrow, and it's actually really quite hard to top stitch neatly. And the instructions suggest that what you do is when you fold it over, you pin it on this side, you maybe hand baste it down there, and then you fold it over, pin it round on the outside, and top stitch it after having removed the pins on the inside. I didn't do it like that. I sewed it down on the inside and then I top stitched round. But I found going round the corners really difficult, which may just be me. But I have to say it is incredibly narrow as a collar stand. So just by way of comparison, I'm going to show you this one. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. So this is my Olia shirt by Paper Theory Patterns, which I made a few years ago. I'll link my vlog down below. But you can see, even though it's black, hopefully you can see, there's the edge of the collar, and there's the collar stand, and there's the start of the placket. That is a lot wider. So if I pop this one next to it, you should get a fair idea. You see, you can see it is really quite a lot taller, and I measured it actually across one of the flatter pieces rather than one of the curved bits. And the Rivi one is less than 2 centimeters, and this one is about 2.9, almost 3 centimeters. So I found that much easier to sew, and I actually don't mind the larger collar stand. So what I might do is do a bit of jiggery pokery when I do the Rivi again, and maybe alter the depth of the collar stand, because I don't think it'll make a huge difference. And yes, I've looked at some of the others I've made as well, even big 4 ones, and they are all bigger than this one. So yes, it's obviously fine, and it may well be that, you know, it's just me and I struggled to sew something that tiny that neatly. But yes, it was a challenge, and I think if I'd struggled less with that part, I would have got it made quite a lot faster, and with a bit less stress. The rest of it all went together fine, and I do think the end product is lovely, and I will obviously, as I said, put some twirly pickies in. So I think that is everything I wanted to tell you. Let me just check my notes. Yes, there is another mistake on it, but only sewists will know. So your challenge is to scrutinise the twirly pictures at the end and see if you can tell me in the comments what the other error is. I don't think anybody else would notice. That excludes members of the Southern Social who know what it is, because I've told them. So there we go. So that is the Rivi. And the other thing I would probably do is I prefer the Stitch Sisters making a shirt vlog instructions on how to do a collar. So I'd probably go back and do that. But it doesn't mean the instructions are awful. It's just that everybody has their own way of doing things, don't they? And I just prefer that. But I would definitely size up, even if I only go up to an 8. So that's my 2 makes. Let me know in the comments what you think of them. And I will just wrap up with a couple of updates on what I have been up to in terms of my other August plans. So in terms of my shirred dress, I haven't done a huge amount, but I did last night just try to do some shirring, and this was really quick. I wound some shirring thread onto a bobbin, so that's the shirring thread side and that's the normal side. I have never shirred before in my entire life, so I had a bit of a go and I have ironed that. It obviously is getting there, but I think I need to play around with the settings, possibly rewind my bobbin again, and maybe watch some vlogs about how to shirr on my particular machine. So I don't doubt I'll get there, but I don't think I'm there yet. Once I've worked that out, then I will have a practice on my actual fabric, which is this one, and then I will set about creating pattern pieces that will replicate my ready-to-wear dress, because I kind of want the higher neck and I really like the way that one fits. So I've started, but I've got a little bit of a way to go. So that's the dress. And then the other things that I was working on or intending to work on were the 2 bags. So I'll pop some pics in here of the Sally commuter tote. I haven't done anything about that yet. That's still in its box. I have, however, started thinking about this one, which is the Get Out of Town 2.1, which is a by Annie pattern. So one thing that you get when you buy this pattern is you get a coupon code which allows you to access like a sew along. It's called an add-on video, and they give you a code which is on the back of this, and then you go onto the By Annie site and sign up, and then you put it in your basket, put your code in, and you get access to the video. So I think I need to sit down and watch that. There are also generic By Annie videos that help you with specific bag making skills, but not necessarily in relation to this bag. So I might have a look at those as well, because I've started looking at the instructions and they are really quite, what's the best word? Dense, I suppose. And I was reading them a couple of nights ago, and I looked at these again, the measurements for the various pieces that you create when you're quilting, and it talks about using a piece which is 36 inches by 20 inches or to 18.5 inches by 20 inches. And I thought, well, that's maybe something to do with how wide the piece of fabric is that you're going to use or what you've got available. And then you start reading the instructions and it actually says if part of your fabric is directional, do the 2 pieces cut. So you can't just launch in and start cutting out the pieces of fabric because you might get it wrong. So I really need to sit down, I think, with a cup of coffee, or if I'm being good, a herbal tea, and just read it all through before I do too much. I have started cutting out just the paper templates. So I have done the smaller pieces using my Cricut and a 12 by 12 mat. I then discovered that you can get 12 by 24 inch mats, which will enable me to do some of the longer ones. And so I've been doing that. I have also invested in a fabric rotary cutter because I thought that might be useful to have, and I could do some of the cutting out with that. Having had a chat to the lovely Mandy Make It Sew, who's got one, she says it can be quite wasteful in terms of fabric. So we will see how we go. I needed a different cutting mat for that anyway, and I haven't got that yet, so I can't do that. So I will do a separate vlog, I think, about how I'm using the Cricut to help me with the bag making, rather than talk about it in any detail here. But that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed the update. I don't know whether I will get all these finished in August, probably not, but I'm very much enjoying the sewing that I have been doing. I hope you've been having some time to get some sewing done too. It's been really hot here, has just cooled down a tiny bit. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you're sewing, and let me know if you've made the Rivi, and if you have, what you think of it. And I will see you next time. Until then, bye for now. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.